Ireland, folks, 29 points to 7 winners over Wales in the Six Nations this morning. It's a bonus point win. Probably could have been more. You'll forgive me if I keep my voice down a touch. It is 20 past 5 in the morning. My kids are still in bed, but we'll go through the key events, some stats, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on this game. But yeah, ultimately, Ireland in a wee bit of drizzle still looked pretty bloody effective. Bonus point win. Could have had a few more tries. Wales got through a ton of defensive work. At times their own worst enemies, but at times, just having to man up and really get through, as I said, a big old defensive shift. If not for that, they would have conceded more points. They did start pretty quickly. 2 minutes, 3 minutes, Bundee gets on the board. Hansen on his Ireland debut makes a nice old line break. Not a bad way to introduce yourself. He gets man of the match. Again, the only thing he didn't do was probably score a try in his first game for Ireland. But gets that line break, and a minute later, Ireland are carrying into the midfield, drawing in that defence, and then they just spin it wide once they've got the men over. So, 7 points to 0. Pretty nice way to start the Six Nations for the Irish guys at home, really get the crowd behind them. But that being said, Wales did settle things down. Dan Biggar, captain of Wales in this one, didn't have a heck of a lot to do in terms of referee management, I don't think. But like a nice little kind of underappreciated settling kick with his team kind of rattled a bit early. Puts in a nice kick just between the two backfielders for Ireland. Kind of awkward enough that it's near the goal line but doesn't go into the goal area. So stays in the field of play. It's not quite close enough to either of the guys to get it without it bouncing a couple of times. So I forget, is it Conway or Keenan has to kind of clear it. So good chance for Wales to kind of get the ball in the Irish half. But nothing ends up kind of happening from it. So at least it was kind of a settling moment when the momentum in the first few minutes had all been with Ireland. Ireland did get a penalty on 9 minutes. Porter with a nice old breakdown penalty. Sexton pushed it wide. It did seem to be a bit windy. But he pushed another one wide on 12 minutes. One of those ones where you're thinking 6 points off the tee, is that going to be costly? Maybe. It doesn't turn out to be much of anything, but I know it was windy, and he kicks a few real bendy ones from the sideline, does Johnny. But still, he's a perfectionist, so he'll be looking at that as a couple of missed opportunities for sure. I wrote a note that said pretty much the whole first 20 minutes has been in Wales' half. Wales keep giving away offside penalties. They're under pressure, but they're holding. The scoreline is still only 7 points to 0. They finally did kick a penalty, though, Ireland on about 20 minutes to make it 10 points to 0. So it could be 10-0 after 10. It was 10-0 after 20. 29 minutes, Wales did actually manage to go through some phases. They'd gone through some decent phases from the kickoff, to be fair. And Biggar with a nice little dinking kick through to touch, steal the Irish line-out ball. That's kind of what you want, right? Contest the kickoff, yes. Put the ball into touch, yes. Put the line under pressure, yes. Kind of a few boxes ticked for the Welsh guys, but then the Irish with the choke tackles, man. First half, they were especially brutal with those. So, again, nothing comes of it from Wales. Lots of carries from Bundee and Garry Ringrose. Quite evident in that first half. They were getting the ball more than anybody else. Perhaps Josh Adams kind of being pretty new to the international scene in the midfield was a good tester for him. And maybe a bit of an area to exploit for the Irish. 32 minutes, Wales go through 9 phases in the Irish half, but they're just getting pushed back. They eventually knock it on. It was kind of tough viewing that one from a Welsh point of view, but from the Irish, it was very pleasing defensively. Half time, it's still 10-0. I thought, in the scheme of things, it's not too bad for Wales because they've not had a lot going on in that first half. Penalties considered as none to 5, which is pretty rare. Low penalty count, but pretty rare that one side doesn't get penalised at all. Run meters 287 to 124, obviously in Ireland's favour. Possession 64-36, so Wales just been living off scraps. Territory 49-51, so that's actually pretty tight. And part of that, honestly, Dan Biggar putting in a few nice kicks to keep his team in the right places. Rees-Zammit was kicking a fair bit as well, to be honest. I mean, they did mention in the commentary that his ankle was really strapped up, so he wasn't really putting the hammer down. He was often opting for a kick. It'll be interesting to see if they mention his fitness in the post-match. Knock-ons was 8-6, so I mentioned a bit of drizzle. Ireland knocking it on a few times when they didn't need to, but likewise Wales. Carries, as I mentioned, Aki made 9 and Ringrose made 7 in the first half. I think the next best Irish guy had 6. So the fact that Aki was carrying it as much as he was, indicative of where they were trying to exploit a bit in the Welsh line. Second half, Ireland opting for touch, get more penalties, advantage. They eventually get it wide to Conway, and he doesn't really have the right to score that one, the first one, because there's like 3 Welsh defenders out there. They've kind of stuttered their way to that point, but he still manages to somehow get over it. That's part of the reason I love Andrew Conway, man. Makes something out of only a half chance. Should have been covered. I think they have to TMO it because he only just gets the ball down on the line, but I think it's a fair call. On field, no try. They look at it, ball touches the line. Great Bundee conversion from Sexton. 17 points to 0. So it's another half that they've started pretty well, Ireland, to get on the board because, that first half, for all the dominance, they weren't able to score any more tries after that first one. So, good for them to get a bit of momentum. 48 minutes, Adams and Sexton have a wee crash into each other. The referee initially says there's nothing really doing. They're both going for the ball, but it's pretty obvious that Josh Adams has kind of clattered into Sexton. I do think Sexton, he's been clattered into, so fair enough, but he makes a bit of a meal of it. But Adams is not going for the ball. Adams is going for Sexton, and they eventually review it. Adams gets yellow carded. I think Adams is just frustrated, man. Like, when he has had the ball on attack, he's been isolated. Anytime he was getting the ball, not anytime, but a lot of the times he was getting the ball, it was like they were only just able to hang on to the bloody thing because the Irish guys were just, flooding the breakdown. So, it was probably a bit of frustration. He clatters into Sexton, and he gets yellow carded for essentially tucking the shoulder and taking him out off the ball, not going for the ball. And they get punished. Wales get punished. They concede 2 tries during the yellow card period. Conway gets another one. It's a bit of a walk in that one after all his kind of individual brilliance for the first one. The second one, he just has to finish off a bit of a move on 51 minutes. Again, it's phases from Ireland in the centre, creating that space out wide. Extra man with Adams in the bin means it's going to be there somewhere. Josh van der Flier had a really great carry in the build-up, so Gibson-Park, good decision to just spin the ball wide, cut everybody out, and just get it straight to Conway where the space is. Another Bundee conversion, 24-0. And then 58 minutes, it's a 6-metre Irish line out. They maul it, but then they concede a penalty for kind of blocking off guys at the maul. It seems like a bit of a let-off, but it's not, because Wales, they can't exit. Turnover ball, and again, Ireland to spin it wide. Ringrose beats Tompkins. Williams is shifting to cover the man wide, so he has to kind of cover with one arm. It's never going to be enough to stop Garry Ringrose, and he finishes the move pretty nicely. Missed that conversion, so it's 29-0 after around about an hour. 29-0, it's looking like we could get 40 points, maybe 50, but no more points for Ireland. Like, as much as you'll be happy, bonus point win, great way to start the Six Nations, I think they'll still be a bit frustrated at the inability to score any more points after the Aki try in the first half and then after the Ringrose try in the second. There's like a good, 50 minutes, is it? They've scored all their tries within this kind of tight window. 30 minutes, sorry. Where they've, 30 minutes, I guess, in the first half, not been able to get tries. But again, you got to give credit to the Welsh defence, and the numbers do look pretty good when we get to those at the end. 63 minutes, Wales did manage to build some phases themselves from turnover ball. They looked to, but then Peter Amadi won a turnover, so there was nothing doing. Ireland camped in the Welsh 22, but just couldn't score. I wrote a note, they could be up by a lot more here, but they weren't. 73 minutes, Wales had a chance to maul it up, then they knocked it on. I was shaking my head. Eventually, Tane Basham had a pretty good shift, to be honest. A bit of individual brilliance after there's a big chop tackle on Tadhg. Tadhg pops it from the deck, but Basham reads it like a book. He's there to intercept the pop and just runs over from close range. So, yeah, at least Wales are on the board. 29 points to 7. They could have conceded another one, Wales, when they had a penalty on their own line. They probably should have just kicked it out. But they wanted to keep playing, give their fans something to cheer about. They kick it to like the 22-metre line in their own half. They lose the line out. It's like another chance for Ireland to score. But nothing comes of it. So, yeah, 29-7. Could have been more from Ireland. Wales got through so many tackles, man. Almost 200. Run meters is 454 to 202. So pretty indicative of the way the game was going. Possession 60-40 and territory 57-43. So Wales under the pump for large periods of this game. Clean breaks 9-4. Defenders beaten 21-10. And beyond that, defenders beaten 21-10. Shocking from Wales on D. Not really, because they made 194 tackles. So that still comes out to a 90% tackle completion rate, which is pretty good, man, at test level. I mean, Ireland's 92, marginally higher, but they made a lot fewer tackles, 117. So, yeah. Some of those Irish tries, especially the ones out wide, didn't have to beat anybody. Obviously, Conway did for his individual one, but Aki, I don't think, had to beat anybody. Ringrose didn't have to beat anybody. But Ringrose did. Conway for a second. So a couple of those were just not missed tackles. Those were just, clean through. Knock-ons 14-9. So Ireland a little bit guilty of coughing up some pill, albeit with the bad weather. Not bad, but it's just like a wet ball. Lineouts 15 from 16 for Ireland. Very pleasing. Wales 8 from 12. It's another area of concern. You can't be coughing up that much ball. Not when Ireland are in the mood they're in. Penalties conceded 14-6. Wales on the wrong end of that one. So Wales essentially on the wrong end of pretty much all the stats. Some pretty good defending at times. But equally a little bit sloppy from Ireland, albeit with wet ball. Hansen gets player of the match. Not bad way to make your international start, isn't it? Good link-up play from him. How often was he off his left wing? A lot. Getting involved. 94 run meters, 2 clean breaks, 3 defenders beaten. Pretty solid. Conway, 3 defenders beaten, a clean break, 44 run meters. Josh van der Flier, 16 to 16 tackles. And I mentioned a wee clean break in the build-up to one of the tries. Basham, 28 run meters, a clean break, and 2 defenders beaten. 20 out of 21 tackles. That guy is certainly one, not just for the future, but for now. And Lewis Rees-Zammit kind of kept pretty quiet. 23 run meters and a clean break. Not that much doing. So, yeah. You guys let me know your thoughts on the game. What did you think of this one? Ireland too good. Could have had more. Wales, if not for some defence, could have conceded more. But, yeah, off to watch Scotland and England now. You guys take care, and I will talk to you again soon. See you later.